Well, let's talk about Lamar. Obviously, John Harbaugh had a press conference with other owners today and basically said that he was staying and they're working it out. And then at the same time, Lamar goes ahead and releases his own statement saying that he requested a trade on March 2nd. So one, and Josh, we'll start with you. Do you think that Lamar Jackson is staying or going, and what kind of a message did this send? To me, it feels like very similar to the Deebo Samuel situation. Everybody thought he was leaving the 49ers last year. He was at a club and they had a 49ers thing and he was like, no, I want out. And look where he is. He's still with the 49ers. I feel like they will work this out with Lamar, but what are your thoughts?
I tend to think he's going to end up leaving. It's kind of dependent upon the timeline. I saw a tweet earlier today saying that if the Colts do not get their quarterback of choice in the draft, maybe they go for Lamar Jackson. But in that situation, I would think Baltimore would be inclined to hold on to him because they wouldn't have another option at the quarterback position. Whereas if a trade were to happen over the next month, maybe they're able to take one of these rookie quarterbacks that we're going to be talking about not only today, but over the next couple of months. So I'm inclined to think he's probably going to be traded at some point in time, but I'm really curious to see how the timing works out, whether in Indianapolis or Atlanta are really motivated to put that offer sheet in now, because you would think multiple teams are going to be interested. Now it's a matter of putting together a package that's going to be not only intriguing for the Ravens, but also Lamar Jackson. Getting him to sign that contract is the first step here. So is somebody going to rush to make that happen here in the next couple of weeks?
Well, it gets a little interesting here too now, because this has gone from Lamar is franchise tagged and would be willing to consider other options to Lamar wants out of Baltimore. So before the whole Lamar request a trade thing, like before we knew that Lamar had requested a trade, and he requested the trade before he was franchise tagged, that's important too. So on March 2nd, if you believe Lamar, and again, I think we have to take him at his word here, he said, I want to trade, knowing that they were going to place a franchise tag on him. They placed a franchise tag on him anyway. That means that he's done with Baltimore. There's a reason why he's not negotiating with them. There's a reason why he doesn't want to sign their offer. So what happens now is if another team is saying, all right, we're interested in Lamar, and they put together an offer sheet, and they give up 2 first-round picks, obviously, if Lamar signs it and the Ravens don't match. But the Ravens had the chance to match. However, if you're Baltimore, can you justify matching this offer sheet when Lamar has already said, I don't want to play for your team and I do not want to sign this particular contract? I don't know that you can. And I don't know what the machinations of that would be if they, like, in other words, like, you don't put together an offer sheet you don't match an offer sheet for a player who doesn't want to be on your team. You know what I mean? Like if Lamar is decided, I don't want to play in Baltimore anymore. I'm over it with DaCosta. I'm over it with Biscotti, whose name I mispronounce and call the Delta Cracker all the time. I'm over it with Harbaugh. I'm over it with these receivers. I'm over it with the whole thing in Baltimore. And that's his prerogative, right?
Yeah, but don't you feel like this is a little bit of social media posturing? Again, I hate to bring it back to the Deebo Samuel thing, but John Harbaugh at the owners' meeting said, Lamar is doing a good job in negotiation. So is Eric DaCosta. I know where we're at. There is no frustration. I feel okay about this. So to me, that means that Lamar is at the table trying to still negotiate with Baltimore.
I think things have actually gotten a little bit toxic here, because if you look back at the combine, Baltimore was saying all of the right things. We're now hearing that Lamar requested a trade on March 2nd. Today is March 27th, so what has changed? Why are these negotiations suddenly being played out on social media over the past week plus? There's got to be some kind of a change in dynamic that has led to Lamar being a little bit more vocal about his situation over social media.
Well, I think maybe one of the reasons why is that, and you would hope, is that I was on 106.7 The Fan in Baltimore. In DC, talking about Lamar with my buddy JP Finley, friend of the podcast, and we're sort of discussing. It was like, Lamar's sort of done himself a disservice over the last few weeks, because I think up until this trade, request, until he made this trade request public, it's been very difficult to figure out what his end game was, and I think that. The lack of it, this is just where the lack of an agent is an issue, because agents are, for better or for worse, very good at leaking out information that will help the player, right? And I talked about the metacritical stuff with Aaron Rodgers and the Pat McAfee show. Well, Lamar has the same ability via Twitter, but he just, for whatever reason, his message and what he's trying to tell the world about what his situation is has not come through in a way that I think has really been easy for us to kind of grasp. And so it's been like an old school negotiation where the Ravens really had more of the influence in terms of the public sphere and being able to push the narrative against Lamar and for the team. And so I think this coming out and saying, look, here is the deal. All those owners are meeting in Phoenix. All the coaches are there. I know that there's people are going to be asked about this. So he jumped out in front of it and said, I asked for a trade on March 2nd. And you just have to take him for his word at that, right? That he actually did it. And so I think now, again, sort of like the Rodgers stuff, it shifts a little bit of the onus onto the team to say, okay, you allowed this to you allowed this to get here. You could have signed Lamar to a contract. You could, if you believe Lamar is an MVP caliber quarterback, if he's a franchise quarterback, you could have stopped this from happening. You had that ability because there's a number he'll take, right? And instead, Lamar wants out of Baltimore, and that becomes a really tricky situation for the team if he is actually not posturing and he does want to play somewhere else.
Yeah, I've got nothing. I'm kind of on the same page with you. I feel like now we're just waiting to see who's actually interested, because the days after we heard about this non-exclusive franchise tag, all these reports started coming out about how Team X and Team Y were not interested. And at the time, Lamar is representing himself. So technically, teams couldn't talk to Lamar at that time. So they had to say they're not interested, because otherwise that was tampering at that point. But now that teams are allowed to negotiate with him, now that we're in kind of a more transparent part of the offseason, do some of these teams start publicly making it known that they do have interest in Lamar Jackson, and begin working on that trade over the next month and a half?
Good point here by Victor in the chat too. I forgot about that. Rashad Bateman, remember we talked about that on the day he tweeted it. He gave that weird tweet about DaCosta and maybe even Harbaugh and just sort of the team in general. Same day that Lamar allegedly requested the trade, or alleges that he requested the trade. I think too, to your point, Josh, it is different. I read that article ripping teams for alleging, claiming the possibility of collusion or whatever. Well, it is different when Lamar's requested a trade. That changes things, because these teams do not want to negotiate for the Ravens. They don't want to go in and give this offer sheet and just have the Ravens and Lamar's like, great, that's what I want, I'll sign that. And then the Ravens like, cool, I'm just kidding, we'll sign that. They don't want to do the work for the Ravens and then look like idiots when that deal doesn't come through. Whereas when you think about the fact that he's now requested a trade, when these teams go and put an offer sheet in front of Lamar, again, as I pointed out, the Ravens have a different calculus now. They have to say, okay, if we match this offer sheet, one, we lose 2 first-round picks. And so who's the team that's offering the picks? Is it Indianapolis because they have the 4th pick? That's a really good spot. You could just draft another quarterback there. Now, he might not be as good as Lamar, but you have the chance that he could be a high-level quarterback, and you get the other first-round pick. And then the question is okay, if we don't do that and we sign we match the offer sheet, we lose the 2 first-round picks, and do we have a quarterback who is unhappy because we kept him in the fold? It's almost like a long-term franchise tag in that sense. And so the fact that he is publicly stating I requested a trade just changes everything, I think.
Well, if it changes everything, our friends over at Sportsline, their odds makers, set odds to where Lamar Jackson will go, if not in Baltimore, week 1 of the NFL. The Colts, like you said, Brinson, are the favorite, plus 300. Then you got the Pats, plus 400, Lions, Falcons, Commanders, Titans, plus 900, the Bucks, plus 1,000, and then Dolphins, plus 1,200. Are the Colts the most likely place? Where would you put your money, Brinson?
I think the Colts are really interesting, especially when you think about Shane Steichen fashioned that offense in Philadelphia, where Jalen Hurts. Obviously it's it's Nick Sirianni's offense, but Shane Steichen certainly can run something similar. He's offensive coordinator there, and you think about all the design runs for Jalen Hurts. Now, 2 different dudes, right? Jalen Hurts is built completely different than Lamar Jackson, just in terms of size and ability to be a power runner. But you can also have a total, you can reimagine, you don't have to do as many power runs, right? You could have Lamar doing stuff that gets him on the edge. He's going to get around the edge faster than Jalen Hurts is, because he's freaking lightning quick, and he gets in the open field, he can destroy anybody. He's one of the fastest, maybe arguably the greatest running quarterback in NFL history already. And so convenient graphic popping up on YouTube, by the way. Thank you. I saw Billy putting it up. I thought I'd sneak that line in there. But like if the Colts got him, he would work in that offense, and you could make the case easily, I think, Josh, that if you have Lamar Jackson, like, is Lamar Jackson better than whatever quarterback you're getting it for, and then whatever draft pick you're getting if you have Lamar for a season? Because that second first round pick you're going to give away will come after you've had Lamar for a year. So, like, in theory, Lamar is going to give you a good season in 2023. You're a playoff caliber team. Victor in the chat points out, bet the Colts to win the division. Pretty good look. I agree. Like, if you're getting good plus money because Jacksonville's minus 150. Like, if you're Indy and you trade, like, I could see a situation where Chris Ballard Jim Irsay is clearly wants to be very aggressive about the quarterback position this offseason, and he has been for the last few years. He wants to figure it out, solve it. If I'm Chris Ballard and I don't love the guys in this draft, I'm thinking long and hard about saying, all right, Lamar might not be my, like, the number one guy I would pick, like, pick Mahomes or Josh Allen, whatever you want to do. But you're like, man, I can get a surefire thing at quarterback. You could definitely talk Jim Irsay into giving away those picks and getting Lamar, and you would know that you would be good in 2023 if Lamar plays 17 games because of that offense, because of your weapons, because of everything you have there with that offensive line. Jonathan Taylor. I mean, it's a fun idea to imagine. And if you're good in 2023, you're very likely not to get fired.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's some frustration within the Indianapolis building about the quarterback situation since Andrew Luck retired. They've had stopgap after stopgap. Is this the time they try to make a big splash? And I think you have to trust your evaluations in this rookie draft class. If you do not see one of these quarterbacks developing into a top echelon starter in the NFL, then you really have to consider making a move for Lamar Jackson. At the same time, Lamar has control over which contract he's going to sign. From Baltimore's perspective, they probably want him out of the AFC. From Lamar's perspective, he has total control. Does he want to get out of the AFC and sign with an NFC team that maybe has an easier path to the postseason? Is there some true spite here, and he takes a team that's already, a little bit lower in the draft order, like Washington sitting there in the middle of the first round? Other than Indianapolis, I look at Atlanta and the moves that they made last offseason with Deshaun Watson going all in on that process. I understand they're saying all the right things about Desmond Ridder and having faith in him moving forward, but you have to say that because there's no certainty they're going to get one of the top quarterbacks in this draft class if they're even interested. Maybe they truly do not see one of these quarterbacks being better than what they already have in the building. But I think it would not be wise to rule out Atlanta based on how aggressive they pursued Deshaun a year ago.
Completely agree. Sorry, I was going to say Atlanta. I think Atlanta. I think Seattle has Geno Smith, so you can't really do that. But I mean, I think Atlanta. Carolina can't do it now that they traded up. I wish they'd done it from 9. Like, they should have just gotten Lamar from 9, but that's neither here nor there. And then Washington, Atlanta, and there's
Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay could be involved. Yeah, I mean, I think to me, Washington, Indy, and Atlanta, because I got to do something for social media afterwards, for the YouTube Shorts, and like they're like, well, give me the first 3 teams I thought of: Colts, Falcons, Commanders. Especially if the Commanders, you're Dan Snyder, and you're like, you could like legitimately. I can't believe I'm going to say this phrase. But like, leave a lasting legacy with the team before you sell them. Like, it's not terrible.
He's got lasting legacies. They're just not good ones.
I'm just saying, like, if you're Dan Snyder and you're just going to sell the team, go get Lamar and then sell the team. And it's like, what if they win a Super Bowl? Like, you would be able to be like, that's kind of my Super Bowl.
Also, if you have Lamar Jackson at quarterback, what's that do for your franchise value when you're trying to sell?
It's a great point. Look at what happened with the Broncos last year when they traded. We thought Russ was good when they traded for Russ. Sale price.